everyone, welcome back to the Cheltenham Countdown YouTube channel for a brilliant episode to look forward to today. I'm going to start off with the Rebound, looking back and reviewing the best performances, the stellar horses that ran at Cheltenham over the 3 days last weekend, over the Friday, Saturday and Sunday at the November meeting. Then we'll look ahead to the preview ahead for this weekend's racing at Punchestown. We have a stellar card, 2-day racing at Punchestown. The Betfair Chaser, Haydock Ascot to look forward to this upcoming weekend. And at the end of the episode, I'll have my best bets and naps, which were really on fire last weekend at Cheltenham, I should say. I landed my nap of the meeting with Doyle and Quest on the Saturday. And a few best bets were won on all 3 days of the meeting, mostly on Friday and Saturday. The Sunday wasn't my particularly best day of the meeting, but the first 2 days were absolutely magnificent for me personally. I hope you all enjoyed last week's episode and that you enjoyed the racing at Cheltenham last weekend. But this is a new week, a new weekend of racing to look forward to, so here it all is. Kicking off with the show with the Rebound, looking back on Friday first of all from Cheltenham last week at the November meeting, where the main star of the first day of the racing was John Bon. He ran on the Schlur Chase, as we know. He won the race, beating 3 other horses, Edwardstone, Boot Hill and an Unexpected Party, who were also in the race. Now, I do think John Bon at Cheltenham doesn't go well together. I've come to the conclusion that I'm happy enough to take him on for the Champion Chase next year. And it's not an anti-post selection by any means, so don't read anything into this yet, but I'm happy enough to select Gaelic Warrior for that race in March. Just that aside though, I don't think John Bon, based on that performance last week, will be winning a Champion Chase whatsoever this season. He didn't travel at his usual best, didn't jump as fluently as he can do. He will obviously come on for the run, and his next target would most likely be the Tingle Creek at Sandown, where he does perform far better at that track. He performs a lot better at Sandown than Cheltenham. We've seen that in the past. We've seen that many times that he's won races at Sandown and not been at his best at Cheltenham. So that's quite proven, to be honest. The other horses in the race to note, I thought Edwardstone and Boot Hill ran a fair enough race. They ran to their limit, but John Bon wasn't at his limit by any means, in my opinion. To beat those 2 horses, Edwardstone and Boot Hill, by 2.5 lengths together is not Champion Chase quality, in my opinion. We'll wait to see what other contenders come out in the next few weeks and next few months to take on John Bon for the race in March. But from now until that race, obviously things can drastically change, but I'm happy enough to take him on, especially at his price at the moment. I think he's about 3-1, 5-2 in places, and that's not a price I really want to get stuck into with John Bon whatsoever. So the first day of racing, obviously John Bon, disappointment in my opinion. He did the business, but disappointment in regards to the performance. He will probably come on for the run, like I said, and be better for it at the Tingle Creek meeting at Sandown in a couple of weeks' time. Day one again, and the 2 performances I want to note that were a positive from the first day at Cheltenham were firstly Potter's Charm in the Hyde Novices Hurdle, the Sharp Novices Hurdle, you know, the trial effectively for the Ballymore trial come the festival, and obviously come probably the Charlo now, really, at Newbury at the end of the year. Potter's Charm was magnificent, in my opinion. I had no bet in the race. However, I was probably thinking that Valgran might edge it, just in my head. Obviously, no money was involved. I didn't bet any horse for that race. But Potter's Charm blew me away. He travelled fantastically well, jumped better than what he did at the October meeting, and powerfully ran up stormed up the hill towards the end of the Sam Twiston-Davies. He's very much a graded horse, this Potter's Charm, potentially a grade 1 horse, and will definitely come back for the festival. I think he's got course form now. He's got a grade 2 in the bag, obviously course and distance. So I do think he could end up come the festival a player in either the Turner's Novices Hurdle, I should say, not the Ballymore anymore, the Turner's Novices Hurdle, or maybe even the Alba Bartlett, whichever way Connections wish to go. Because I do think he could stay 3 miles as well, this horse. But we'll wait and see what he does for the rest of the season prior to Cheltenham. But he blew me away, beating Valgran up that hill. And stayed on exceptionally well through the line. So he's a good horse, very good horse, promising horse in the making. And probably next up for him will be the Charlton Officers Hurdle. The Charlton Officers Hurdle, I should say, a great one for him at Newbury at the end of the year. Some good novices will be probably taking up that race come the end of 2024. I suspect he'll be one of them. He may take on one from the Skelton Yard, the New Lion. He may take on Regent Stroll from Paul Nicholls and maybe Quebecois. So there's a few nice horses in that race. Mr. Meggett as well. He may go to that particular race. So that race could really be hot come the end of the year. But he's definitely a player for the Charlton Officers Hurdle. That's Potter's Charm. The second horse that I was really happy with, and money was involved in this particular race as well, so quite biased to say that I was happy with his performance, but Highland in my first race that I gambled on last week was very good out from the front. Jumped well in the Nico de Boinville. I do think he's a graded horse as well. That race last week that he won was listed level, but nonetheless, I think the way he beat Springwell Bay and others in that race was very impressive, to be honest. Out from front, he had to do the donkey work out from the front, the hard work, but jumped really well. Didn't do many mistakes. Didn't look at all out of comfort. He was always in control, and I think he could step up into deeper waters next. Highland could, perhaps at Kempton, at King George meeting at Boxing Day, potentially if there's a 3 mile novice chase around Kempton. Even Sandown, he could potentially go to Sandown, Ascot. They're all options for him, all open. Could come back for Trials Day, or even the New Year's Day meeting at Cheltenham. There's all options open for Highland, and he could even run the festival if things go well for the rest of his season. But the two performances that I was really happy with and watching, and obviously money-wise, was Highland and Potter's Charm. They were the two I took note from the first day at Cheltenham. Performances on Saturday I was really impressed with. The first one came in the first race of the day. That was East India Doc in the Triumph Hurdle Trial at 12:35 last weekend. He was absolutely fantastic the way he jumped in that race. Really, really slick, really, really quick, and had a quick turn of foot towards the end where he put the rivals away quite comfortably, quite early during the last stages of the race. Really jumped well, didn't go a foot wrong, didn't do a foot out of place over his hurdles, over his obstacles, and Sam Twiston-Davies and James Owen must have been absolutely licking their lips following that race. They will hopefully, and they will probably come back to the festival in March for the Triumph Hurdle. I suspect they won't tackle any Irish horses prior to then, but I'm not sure what other targets he may have for the rest of his season, whether or not he goes straight to the Triumph Hurdle or not. Nonetheless, East India Doc is very much a promising horse. He's gone down substantially in price for that race, for the Triumph Hurdle. I've seen in the last couple of days, he's about 8-1 in some firms for the Triumph Hurdle. Not a price I'm going to get stuck into, but I wouldn't put off any of you backing him for the race. He's definitely a player, but I just want to see other horses come out first, especially in juvenile racing, before I start selecting any horses for the Triumph Hurdle and elsewhere. But he's very much a contender for the race, East India Doc, and I do think he'll come back for the festival. So if you do want to select him and back him for the Triumph Hurdle, by all means do it, because I don't think his price will go much higher than 8-1. So you'll have a decent price for him for the race. So that's East India Doc, who ran well at Cheltenham the first race last weekend on the Saturday. The second horse I was really impressed with was Lieu de Sud for Dan Skelton and Harry Skelton. Jumped even better than what he did at Stratford. Was fantastic in the way he coped with surroundings at Cheltenham. He's run well at Cheltenham in the past, obviously in the county hurdle. So he has got good, decent course form at the track. But over fence, he's really been a revelation under Harry Skelton. They both get on really well together. They both have a good combination, the horse and rider. And I do think he'll be a player again for the Arkle at Cheltenham Festival. I'm not sure what price he is now, but yeah, like similar to East India Doc in the Triumph Hurdle, I don't want to select him for the Arkle just quite yet, until I see some other novice chasers come out, at least first time out this season. We've seen some come out. We've seen Firefox and In the Pocket come out in Ireland, and Lieu de Sud obviously in the UK. But there are some Willie Mullins horses that may tackle some novice chase races quite soon, so I want to see how they fare on as well. But nonetheless, two great British performances from horses in the UK came out last Saturday. They were East India Dock in the Triumph Hurdle Trial and Lieu de Sud in the Arkle Trial last Saturday. And of course, I can't not mention, obviously, as a personal gain in this section of the video, that my nap Doyen Quest did win, did actually hose up under Haydock Ascot on the Saturday afternoon. Very much well handicapped at the point. You had a good rating of, I think it was 125 on the day going into the race, and he absolutely hosed up under Haydock Ascot. Really, really impressive. Had the second hurdle he jumped, my heart was in my mouth at one point because he did land quite awkward under Haydock Ascot. I thought at one point Haydock Ascot was going to get unseated. But luckily to me, from then on, he made no mistake. And Harry rode him very confidently out the back. And towards the end, see him go through the field, see him go through, weave his way through horses, was absolutely magnificent. Jumped the last, and from then on, he really powered up the hill. Very much grateful for the ride and the race and the run. So thank you, Doyen Quest, for making my nap last weekend a winning one. And I hope towards the end of the video, you'll understand my next nap for this weekend's racing will be. Hopefully that horse will go on and do the business as well. That'll be 2 naps in 2 weekends, which should be fantastic. Now, moving on to this part of the episode where I'll be doing the previews for this weekend's race in Ireland and in the UK. The 3 main races I will be previewing will be 2 in Ireland and 1 from Haydock. The 2 in Ireland will be the John Durkin Memorial Chase on the Sunday and the Morgiana Hurdle on the Saturday, so the day before the Morgiana Hurdle on the Saturday. And in Haydock will be the Betfair Chase. They will be the 3 main races I'll preview, but also there'll be some noteworthy horses to mention that have been entered for the weekend's racing at Haydock and at Punchestown. So a few races to get through and a few horses to mention. So this part of the video is all about the preview, and I'll start off by mentioning the Morgiana Hurdle. That'll be my first preview race of this weekend. And what a race we have in the Morgiana Hurdle on Saturday afternoon at Punchestown. We have the horses have been declared today, and the top 3 in the market are absolutely stellar horses. Stateman, Lossymouth, and Brighter Days Ahead have all been declared for the Morgiana Hurdle. Now, it's interesting at this early on in the season why William Ellis has pitched Lossymouth in with Stateman. I think it's a positive step. I think it's so good he's done it so early on to see how she fares against Stateman, because I actually thought Lossymouth would avoid Stateman until at least the Irish Champion Hurdle, so at Lepstone at the Dublin Racing Festival. So to see them both take on each other, hopefully, though things can drastically change between now and Saturday, but to see them both tackle the same race, a Grade 1 in the same race this weekend in November, shows how William Ellis doesn't mind having his star horses take on each other. That'll come on again later on in the video. We'll have another discussion why William Ellis enjoys, well, I think William Ellis doesn't mind having his 2 stars in the same division tackle each other in the same race. That'll come late in the next section of the video. But to have Stateman, Lossymouth and Brighter Days Ahead, 3 magnificent horses in the same race this early on in the season is absolutely mouth-watering for us Jumps fans. Now, the market is out. I think Stateman is just shading odds on at this moment in time. Now, I'm not surprised by that price, purely because he's been there and done it. He's won a champion hurdle. He's been and won a Morgiana Hurdle a few times. He's a class act. He's a Grade 1 winner. He's a multiple Grade 1 winner, about 7-8 time Grade 1 winner. He's a very much a class act in this division, and Lossymouth has got to prove, and Brighter Days Ahead have got to prove that they can match up to Stateman in this division. Now, a selection for the race, it might not be a bet at this moment in time, but it'll be a selection. I think I'll have a selection, and it may not come under my best bets section of the episode. I do think Stateman is going to win. It's very much a boring selection, I know that, but he's been there and done it at 2 miles. Lossymouth won the Mares' Hurdle last time out at the Cheltenham Festival. It wasn't last time. Last time I was at Punchestown for her. But last season's Cheltenham Festival, she won over 2.5 miles in the Mares' Hurdle. I'd like to see her at 2 miles against Stateman before backing her first, if you know what I mean. I'd like to see her run on Saturday. Let her win, if she does win. Let her win and see how she fares against Stateman in the race on Saturday. So I couldn't back her yet. She may be a great price at 11 to 4, 5 to 2, but I'd rather watch her against the likes of Statesman and Co. First of all, I think she's a magnificent mare, one of the best mares we've seen since Honeysuckle. But I'd want to watch how she fares against Statesman and Brighter Days Ahead on Saturday. Brighter Days Ahead, I think she'll develop during the season as well against the Geldings and against her own sex, the mares, whichever route Gordon Elliott takes her down this season. But I think she'll be seen not to her best effect against Statesman and Lossiemouth. I think the other two, Statesman and Lossiemouth, are better than Brighter Days Ahead in my opinion. So maybe just marginally, but over 2 miles, I think Statesman is the better horse of the three, and that's why I think at the odds on, it won't be a bet for me, but he will be a selection for the race. I think he's also a horse that will be seen better in Ireland than Cheltenham this season, as I mentioned with regards to the other horses at the start of the video in terms of John Bond not being a Cheltenham horse. I don't think Statesman at his best is best effect at Cheltenham as well. He tends to race better in Ireland, so I do think he'll kickstart his season with a win in the Morgana Hurdle. I know it's a boring selection, like I said, at 4-5, but I won't bet on the horse. But I think Statesman will go and win the Morgana Hurdle on Saturday. Nonetheless, though, it's an absolute cracking race, and the first race I've previewed for this weekend. Second race I'm going to preview this weekend is back at Punchestown on Sunday. And it's in the John Durkan, the Grade 1 Memorial Chase over 2.5 miles. Now, like I said earlier, just now with regards to Willie Mullins not minding as such, putting his 2-star horses in the division against each other. This is again shown here, where Galloping de Champ and Factor Fire are both probably going to run against each other, as well as Fast or Slow, who won the race last season for Martin Brazil. But Willie Mullins is pitching these two horses against each other, and I think that's very, very good of him. It's a class thing to do, because I think as much as we want to see it, he wants to see how his horses fare against each other in a hot race. I mean, he'll want to see who's the best over 2.5 miles. If one doesn't race as good as the other over this distance, and if one fares better than the other at a track, if you know what I mean. So they'll definitely both be contenders wherever they go this season. But to pitch them in against each other this early on, again, like I said, at the time of the season, is fantastic. A selection for the race, I'm not sure yet. If you had to squeeze one out of me, I probably would side with a bias selection in Galloping de Champ. Again, that's not very different. It's quite original. It's not new. He's my favourite horse in training, so quite biased again in that department. But I don't know. I think Factor File, I don't want to knock his form from the Brown Advisory last season, but I just think he'll come on again for the race and for meeting these older horses, these established chasers on Sunday. He hasn't met the likes of Galloping de Champ or Fast or Slow before, and I suspect he'll have quite a big shock when it comes to how these two horses race against each other on Sunday. Fast or Slow and Galloping de Champ have knocked heads against each other many times in the last couple of seasons, and they'll knock heads against each other again on Sunday. It's just whether Factor File can beat both of them. He may beat one of them, but I don't think he'll beat both Galloping de Champ and Fast or Slow. And that's why I think Galloping de Champ will learn from his race last season, where he finished 3rd at the John Durkan on his first start of the season. Paul Towner will ride him differently this year in his first race. He'll ride him more prominently. He'll jump him out more economically, and I think he'll enjoy that more. He'll enjoy the way Galloping de Champ will enjoy the way he was ridden back at Cheltenham in the Gold Cup this year in March, and I think that's the way he can ride Galloping de Champ going on now. He's a staying horse. He's a very much a staying chaser, and that's the way you've got to ride him. He can easily stay on from the back, but I think more from the front he can pull horses out of their comfort zone, and for Galloping de Champ to potentially make the running on Sunday, that could easily play into his hands rather than his opponent. So I'm going to go with Galloping de Champ on Sunday. Not to my best bets again, though. It's not going to be a best bet selection for me. I probably will bet on him, but it won't be under my best bet selection. So Galloping de Champ, whatever price he goes off, I'm sure I will stake some money on him come Sunday in John Durkan. Fast or Slow is another horse you can note that you could select. I wouldn't mind putting any of you off backing him. He's a Great Punchestown horse. He's won the track numerous times, and I think he'll be there or thereabouts come Sunday yet again for Martin Brazil. Again, like going back to the factor find, I think he'll come on for the run. He'll need it because he didn't start well last season, and he absolutely improved as the season went by. So we'll see how he fares against the more established horses on Sunday. Now, the third big race preview to look at in this episode is the Betfair Chase at Haydock on Saturday. And not a vintage renewal of the race in my opinion, yet it is a competitive field, but not a vintage sort of star on show at Haydock this weekend. It's the first Grade 1 of the UK season, and obviously I'm very much looking forward to it. It's a cracking renewal, usually. It's not saying it's not this season. However, I don't think there's a major star in the making in this race. I'll dive straight into it. I don't think Grey Dawning is going to win. I'm not a fan of Grey Dawning, especially over 3 miles. I don't think he'll be winning this on Saturday. I'm happy to take him on, definitely in this race. And the horses I will be taking him on with, well, one especially would be Royal Pagaille, the winner from last season. The weather forecast at Haydock this week is supposed to be really, really wet, really soft ground by Saturday. That's the weather forecast. Don't quote me on that. However, if that is the case, I'm happy enough to back Royal Pagaille, and I have backed Royal Pagaille for the race on Saturday at Haydock. I backed him a 5-1, and I don't think that's a bad price, to be honest. The third horse in the market is Ahoy Senor. I'm not really fond of him as a winter horse as well. I think he gets better in the spring. That's obviously been shown in the last couple of years. You've also got in the Brave Man's Game, who needs to improve, needs to bounce back. You've got the Real Whacker, who beat him at the Weatherby last time out. So there are a few horses with question marks, but in my opinion, Royal Pagaille is a solid option. Of course, in his last 3 races, he's won 1 and fallen twice. So he needs to really bounce back and step back into his best position as well. But Venetia Williams and Haydock really match well, and Royal Pagaille and Haydock really go well together as well. He won the race last season from Brave Man's Game, Corach Rambler and Protectorat, and that form is very, very strong. If you look at Protectorat, won the Ryanair at the end of the season, and Corach Rambler finished 3rd in the Gold Cup. So Royal Pagaille is not a bad horse, and a very good horse at Haydock. So if the ground turns up heavy or soft on the day, he will not be 5-1 in my opinion. He'll be a lot shorter. And he's one of my best bets of the weekend, by the way. He will be a best bet selection at the end of the video. That's Royal Pagaille. Others in the race to look at: Limerick Lace for Gavin Cromwell, an interesting entry for them. The JP McManus mare is entered. Capodanno as well, I think, has been entered for the race on Saturday. Whether or not he's been declared, I'm not sure. Like I said, Real Whacker, Brave Man's Game are all in there. It's a decent Grade 1. First Grade 1 of the season. It won't be the best Grade 1 of the season by any means, but there's no star on show, if you know what I mean. There's no star that I think is going to go on and win a King George or win a Gold Cup this season. So that's what I would have loved to see. A horse that could be a potential star in the making run here. Nonetheless, it is a Grade 1. It's one that I'll be watching Saturday afternoon with interest. But my selection will be Royal Pagaille for Charlie Deutsch and Venetia Williams. Now it's time for the best bets and naps of the weekend's racing, the section of the episode. Before I do mention or tell you all my best bets and naps, we have a noteworthy entry of a horse that's going to be running in the novice chase, a beginner's chase, I should say, at Punchestown on Saturday. The brilliant Ballyburn is back. We all thought he may be staying hurdling this season. Willie Mullins doesn't think so. He's entered him and declared him for a beginner's chase at Punchestown at 12:30 on Saturday afternoon. So I'll be watching that race with big interest because I think he's a fantastic horse. One of the best novice hurdlers we've seen in recent years as well, going into his novice chase season. So could go anywhere this season, Ballyburn, but he starts off in a beginner's chase at Punchestown on Saturday. Now, best bets and naps time. I'm recording this video on the Thursday evening-ish, and my first best bet is going to be on Friday afternoon. So if you are watching this on Friday morning or Friday afternoon, you may have missed the race. It's actually at Ascot at 2:05, I think, on Friday afternoon. The horse is called Miles from Wicklow for Harry and Dan Skelton. He's 9-2. I backed him at 9-2, and I think he's a good thing as well in his handicap chase over 2 miles, 5 furlongs. Now, He's won, I think, off the top of my head, I think he's won 3 races over the fences in his career, or three races in his career, I should say. And I think, again, don't quote me on this, I think they've all been right-handed, so he's got decent form over the right-handed track. But nonetheless, I've backed him on 92 on Saturday. The team are in red hot form behind Dan Skelton, although I don't think they'll win on Saturday with grades only. But at Ascot on Friday, I think they'll win with Miles from Wicklow, who I've backed on 92 in my first best bets of the weekend. He takes on the likes of Gemirond and Persian Time for Nicky Henderson. They got a lot to prove. Gemirond finished down the pecking order in his race at the Cheltenham Festival this year, and Persian Time has been put in his place on a few occasions of late. But Miles from Wicklow drops his best effect over this trip, I think, over this distance, rather than going up in trip over 3 miles. So I think he's a good thing, and I've backed him, like I said. Sticking with Ascot, but this time on Saturday, my nap of the whole weekend's racing will come at Ascot at 2:45 Saturday afternoon in the Grade 2 Ascot Hurdle. It is going to be Blue King Duru, a horse to follow. I put up at the start, my first episode of this season, this second season on my channel. Blue King Duru will be ridden, and a very interesting jockey selection here, because I thought he may be riding Brave Man's Game in a Grade 1 at Haydock on Saturday. Harry Cobden is jocked up on Blue King Duru on Saturday afternoon at Ascot, in the 2 mile 5 furlong Grade 2 Ascot Hurdle. Now, this is an interesting selection, jockey book in my opinion. I think Blue King Duru is going to be a hurdler in time. I think he's going to be a staying hurdler for Paul Nicholls. But for the time being, he's not a bad 2.5 miler as well. He's won of the course at Ascot as well last season in the Coral Hurdle, I think it was. He finished midfield in the long walk or the long distance hurdle back at Ascot as well during the season. And obviously finished well during his last race of the campaign at Sandown, I think it was. So he's a horse that prefers going right-handed, I think. He won at Cheltenham as well on his first start of the season last time, I think it was. So he's got good form. He's a very good horse. That's why I've got him as a horse to follow as well. I think he'll develop with time, develop as the season goes by, and I think he'll go and win on Saturday. I backed him at 3-1, and he's going to be my nap of the weekend's racing. If he goes higher again, then it's a bonus. I think I may back him again, to be honest. I think he's that much. He's got that much in hand to win. Pictor, he's always also on the card for Harry Cobden and Paulie, because he runs in the race prior to Blue King Duru, I think. So, but nonetheless, Blue King Duru, he takes on Golden Ace, who won the Mares Novice Hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival this season. But my selection will be Blue King Duru and my nap of the weekend for Paul Nicholls and jockey Harry Cobden. Lastly, my final best bet of the weekend will be Royal Pagaille, as you know, in the Betfair Chase, the Grade 1 at Haydock on Saturday. Especially with the terms of the ground and what we're expecting, a deluge there at Haydock over the course of the week. I think he's going to go and win for his second win in the race for Venetia Williams and Charlie Deutsch. I think it's a tougher race for him this season with regards to the field, the numbers of horses in the field. But I do think he's a better horse than what he was this time. Obviously, he's fallen in his 2 of his last 3 races. But the race he won in amongst those 2 falls was the Betfair Chase last season. And I think he's a better horse as he gets older. He's a type of horse that gets better as he gets older. Under Venetia Williams, who's a magnificent trainer herself, she gets the best out of her older horses as well. So my third and final best bet of the weekend will be Royal Pagaille. And lastly, before I do go, stay tuned in the next few days, obviously before the end of the month as well. I will have my second anti-post tip for the Cheltenham Festival in March will be revealed before the end of the month, like I said. I still don't know what race to put up before the end of the month, but I will have my second anti-post tip will come out in the next probably 7 to 10 days. Determine who I find and what value I find as well. But I do want to get him in, that horse, I should say, in early before the end of the month. So my second anti-post tip will be on YouTube Shorts in the next 7 to 10 days, I think, and I will all let you know prior to putting up the video as a announcement that I found a second anti-post tip for the 2025 Cheltenham Festival. So I've waffled for long enough now. I want to hear your comments and your best bets and naps and potential anti-post tips for the festival. in this video, on the comments underneath this video, I should say. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Give me your selections, give me your thoughts on my tips, and how you fared last week at Cheltenham as well, of course, and how you're looking forward to Punchestown and Haydock. I want to hear everything. I want to hear all your thoughts in the comments down below. You can message me or comment on Twitter as well. I post a lot of my tweets on Twitter if any of you guys follow me. Keep updated with those two apps, the Twitter and Instagram accounts that I have for all things Cheltenham. Subscribe to the channel if you want. Like this video and share if you also want to. And I'll see you all very soon. See you all next week.